Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where we are back with the first live stream of the week. It's been a long old week. You guys know that we've been trying a bit of a different setup on the channel for videos, and it's not been working very well. We've had lighting problems. I seem to have also ruined the lighting now for streams as well, which is not ideal. But yeah, bear with me. We are working on things because yeah, it's been an annoying week, so I do really appreciate your guys' patience. But today, we are back to streaming, we're back in the sort of old setup, and we are talking about Manchester United against Manchester City. And the main focus for today is going to be finding a starting 11, or creating a starting 11 with the players that we've got available, that we feel can beat Manchester City this weekend. Now, normally, I think beating Manchester City is a massive, massive deal, and of course it still is, because they're still a very good team, but they are not as strong as they have been in previous years, so there probably is a feeling that even though United aren't perfect right now, we can still get at this team. So that will be the plan for today. We will strip the United 11, we will take it back to nothing, and then go through each position. We'll do some polls in the chat, you guys can have your say, and we will come up with an 11 to win this game. But before we get into that, quickly drop a message in the chat and let me know how you guys are doing. How are you feeling? How are you feeling post-Forest game, post-international break, and also how are you feeling coming into this game? But also, just how is life in general? Like I said, in terms of here on the channel, it's been really frustrating. We've tried to make an upgrade, and it's not gone very well at all. And slightly pissed off with it all. You can see, like I said, even here, the lighting is slightly broken, which is annoying. Which is annoying. But anyway, yeah, the plan today is going to be to take these United players out of the team. So basically, start again. Let's almost ignore the game from the other day a little bit, take everyone out of the team and rebuild the 11. Because we do have certain players that are coming back into contention for this team. We've got Harry Maguire, who of course came on up front the other night. He is an option from the start. We've got someone like Mason Mount, who seems to be getting closer and closer to full fitness. We've got Bruno, Ugarte, Casemiro, Collier, Eriksen, sort of midfield options. So there are a few discussion points for United this week. You'd like Yoro on the left side of the defence and Mazraoui on the right. It's interesting that the other day they switched halfway through. I thought that was an interesting change. Just got announced that Bruno is the Premier League Player of the Month. I've actually got a video lined up on Bruno, either later today or tomorrow. I'm not actually sure when that video will be out, but I'm working on it. It just needs to be edited. I'm trying to save the lighting because you guys know the lighting isn't very good. Alex, good morning, mate. How are you? How are you? Is Mount injured again? Many are saying. I don't believe he is injured again. I know there have been talks about him going to Switzerland for like specialist treatment, but I don't think that's because he's got another injury. I think that's more to prevent future injuries. But let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong. Doing good, feeling better after the international break with the players coming back from injury. I think we're also starting to see some progress as well. We're starting to see a little bit of improvement. It's far from perfect still, but we are seeing a little bit of progress. Mount is back injured. Is Mount injured again? Can someone confirm in the chat for me? I will have a quick look myself. Is Mason Mount injured again? I thought it was sort of like we'll send him off to stop future injuries, not because he's injured right now. Is that actually true? Let me quickly have a look. Because if Mason Mount is injured again, I don't know what it means for the guy and his future. I don't think he is he? I don't think he is. I can't see anything saying he's injured. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, let's get to picking this 11. We'll start off with the goalkeeper, which, as usual, should be fairly straightforward. I would assume Onana will be the goalkeeper of choice. Bayindir is an option, perhaps one of the youth goalkeepers, but realistically, it will be Onana in goal. So that one is pretty straightforward. The bigger conversation comes into the back three, where we've got several to choose from. We've got De Ligt, who could go in there. We've got Harry Maguire. We've got Lindelof. Is Lindelof available? I can't quite remember. We've got Maguire. We've got, where is he? Mazraoui, who could play in the back three. And, if I can find him, Lenny Yoro as well. Mount's injury is all over social media. Yeah, I've seen the talks of, like I said, Mount being, or spending some time in Switzerland over the summer, right, to prevent future injuries. But I don't think that's like because he's injured again. I think that was more of a precaution thing, like a prevention method rather than treating a current injury. But maybe I'm wrong. I've just seen that Mount has an option to go for some sort of treatment process in Switzerland for 6 months. Yeah, that's what I saw. Not that he's actually currently injured. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Anyway, let's pick the back three. And we'll start off with the middle centre-back, because normally we have this conversation between Maguire and De Ligt, and it's probably going to be the same again this week. Why have we got two Maguires? Yeah, normally it's a conversation between these two, and it's probably the same again this week. Recently, De Ligt has been playing as the middle centre-back, but he has also played games at right centre-back where people have quite liked him. Maguire as the 9, please. Maybe for 10 minutes at the end, if we need a goal. So Lightning saying from right to left, Mazraoui, De Ligt, Yoro. I've got it correct? Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Hey AJ, how are you, my guy? I'm not bad, thank you. I'm not bad. I'm getting slightly battered by hay fever this morning. I can't stop sneezing, which is good fun for a video. But apart from that, I'm not too bad, thank you. How are you? So you'd go for De Ligt in the middle. Should we do a poll here? Or what we've got to remember as well is we may say, you know, obviously you want De Ligt in the team somewhere at the moment. He doesn't have to be the middle one. For example, we could go Maguire in the middle, De Ligt to the right-hand side, or De Ligt to the left. That is a possibility. Shall we do a quick poll? Shall we do a quick poll for the central centre-back? We've got De Ligt who could go in there, and we've also got Harry Maguire who could go in the poll. So the poll should now be in the chat. It's completely free to be involved in. Just press 1. Just, like, click it. Completely free for you to do. Let's see what the poll is going to say. I mean, De Ligt takes a very early kind of confident lead. I think his performances have been good recently, De Ligt. I think he's been really strong. I think at the start of the season he had sort of inconsistencies, perhaps, but I think recently he's looked more consistent with the performances. I think the level has improved. I think particularly when he's playing as the wider centre-back, he's sort of just adapting to it. He's sort of getting to grips with it a little bit more. So particularly those timings of going into midfield and pressing those players, I think he's getting better and better week by week. And I think actually he's just benefiting from a run in the team, staying fit in his career, which hasn't always been a luxury he has possessed. Staying fit, playing regularly in quite an inconsistent back three at times, but you know, he's still in there, he's playing pretty well, so I don't think there's any reason to take him out. For me, he should definitely be in there somewhere. And the poll seems to be agreeing. So we will put De Ligt as our middle centre-back. We'll take Maguire out of the team because we're not playing Maguire as a wide defender because they'd get absolutely toasted. So we'll take Maguire out for now and move to the wide positions, where I guess realistically, you know, you guys are not going to vote Lindelof into the team. So I guess the question here really is, between Mazraoui and Yoro, what way round do you play them? What way round do you put the pair of them? Let me also see if I can quickly change the lighting just a little bit. I can't find the cable. It's over here somewhere. Yeah, what way round would you play those two? Would you go for Yoro on the left or Mazraoui on the left? Because they played both of them the other day. And then halfway through they swapped, didn't they? So there are options there. Is that a little bit better? It's a little bit better. Still not very colourful, but it's a little bit better. So let's take Lindelof out of the conversation. What way round would you go with these two? That's also a really good point from Lightning as well. We do have Lyon this Thursday, which is probably more important than this game. Obviously, this is a Manchester derby. We want to win the match. But in the grand scheme of things, the match on Thursday is more important. So we need to get that balancing act between getting getting minutes into legs. You know, certain players might need a build-up of fitness, so we need to manage that. But also, maybe there's people we need to protect. Someone like Bruno Fernandes played a lot before the international break. He played during the international break. He's definitely going to play the game on Thursday. Is there an argument for resting certain people or protecting them? Now, I'm not talking necessarily about taking them out of the starting 11, but are there certain players that maybe should only play 60 minutes? Is that something that we need to manage? What's the chat saying? Everyone is going Yoro on the left, Mazraoui on the right. What would be your reasoning for that? Yoro's better with Dorgu? I think that's true, actually. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I also like it in terms of how it lets us press at times as well, which I think is handy. With Haaland out for City, Maguire doesn't have a case to start. De Ligt is more aggressive and will close down better. It's going to be interesting because Marmoush up top is lightning quick. He's a great channel runner, technically very gifted as well. He's going to cause some problems back there, particularly if the game opens up at all. That's probably when he's going to be at his most dangerous, and that could be a bit of a problem. In terms of the City 11 we've got on screen right now, this is what they played in midweek against... Who was it they played in midweek? I can't remember. Who did they play in midweek? Was it Leicester? I think it was Leicester they played, and this was the starting 11 they went for that game, so I'm assuming it'll be something similar again, but we of course don't know. We got Alex in the chat with a gifted membership. Alex, thank you very much, mate. Greatly, greatly appreciated. Guys, you know what to do. Get some love hearts in that chat for Alex. If you are a member especially, by the way, if you go into the emojis, you can use custom emojis. So use some of them for Alex because he's an absolute legend. Alex, thank you very much. Also, you can hear Hay Fever battering me because listen to my voice. Listen to me. I don't sound right. Every week. It's always on days that I stream as well. It's only on stream days I seem to have bad hay fever. Always happens. Yoro is more comfortable on the left. Mazraoui messes up more on the left. See, it's quite interesting how these ideas and these conversations change over the course of the season. Because I think at the start of the season, when Yoro was first brought into the club, everyone saw him very much as a right centre-back or a central centre-back. I don't think many people had the conversation about him on the left. It was something that we spoke about a little bit on the channel, and I like the idea of it. But I think the perception has changed. I think people are more open now to Yoro playing on the left-hand side. And I honestly think it potentially changes the plans for future recruitment. I think there's been this idea for quite a while now, and I've certainly led into that idea, that we need a left-footed centre-back for when Lisandro Martinez is injured, or maybe physically we want an upgrade, that we have to have this left-footed player on the left-hand side. I think Yoro has maybe addressed that a little bit. I think he is kind of shown that he can play on the left-hand side, and that might make things just a little bit easier for us in the market. This might be a huge plus Yoro. His versatility, his ability to play in all three positions could save us a fair bit of money because left-foot centre-backs are expensive. Ramfoy. Do you think we need to force Doku to have the ball more? He dribbles, but he's unproductive. Ooh, that would be an interesting one, because the big issue that Doku often has, people talk about him himself being unproductive, and I think at times that's fair. You know, he's a good dribbler, he gets into the final third well, but does he deliver? But I don't just think it's him. I don't just think this is a Doku issue. I think a lot of it is the movement in the middle. Haaland is someone who will often peel towards the back post when he plays. He's not someone who's going to get across the front post or things like that. And City have lacked players from outside the box that want to get in there. So I don't think it's actually specifically a Doku issue. Does he need to work on it a little bit? Yes, of course he does. But I think actually some of the issue is the setup around him, the lack of runners into the box around him. That's the bigger issue for me. David, good morning, my man. How are you? How are you? How are you? Channel member now for 14 months. Beautiful. Beautiful, David. Thank you very much, as always, for your support. I hope you're well, my friend. I hope you're well. Bobby the Bob, good morning to you. How you doing, mate? No balance, 3 right footers across the back 3. It's not ideal, right? I don't know, it's an interesting thing to look at in the summer, I think. Because, again, left-footed centre-backs are expensive. They are expensive. Still think we need one, but it's not urgent. Maybe do it the summer after. Possibly. But we've got to remember, of course, we also have Lisandro Martinez. I don't have him in the team today because of injury, but normally he would be in the conversations. I lied. Here he is. So we have to remember that as well, right? We're not talking about completely writing a player off. By the way, guys, if you have a look in the chat down below, once I've done this, at the top of the chat, there is a message that has been pinned. It's a message from David with a link to our second channel, AJ Talks Tactics, which hasn't been as active recently because I've been trying to do the setup on this channel and failing horribly. But there is also a link to the Discord server as well, which, again, completely free to join, and there is a lot of football chat in there. I believe there's 571 people in the server now, which is pretty cool. If we could get that to 600 by, the end of the season, that would be very, very nice. That would be very, very nice. David, thank you as always. But yeah, guys, check out the links. Check out the links. Are we settled on this back 3? I think we are, right? Yeah, we've got Aiden Heaven too. We've got Kukonki coming through. There is that worry that if we sign a £60 million left-foot centre-back right now, we're going to have him, we're going to have Lisandro Martinez. Does it block Heaven and Kukonki's path? There is that concern. Maybe having a more versatile defender who can play a few different positions is a better option for us because it doesn't directly block someone. Do we still need another centre-back this summer? I think we need another player to play in the back three. I wouldn't say that specifically has to be a centre-back. I think it could be a full-back profile playing in that position. Someone like a Singo I've spoken about. It could be someone similar to Mazraoui. It could be Mazraoui. I think there are options. Steve, good morning, mate. How are you? The 5-month membership. Steve, I've loved your recent contributions to this community, mate. It's great to have you around here. 5 months, though. I didn't realise it had been as long as that. But thank you very much, as always, for the support. You're not failing at all. You're a mighty lad. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's been a long week. I believe in the last 7 days, I have put close to 24 hours into setup alone. Not talking about football or anything like that. Trying to sort the setup. And I just still can't get it right. And it's driving me insane. So I appreciate the kind words. I'm trying my best. I'm trying to save some of the videos with the editing afterwards as well. But I'm also not very good at editing. I've been so tempted just to sack it off, to give it up and go back to the old setup. I mean, I was so frustrated yesterday. We were probably 1 click away from deleting the channel. But I'm not going to do that. Don't worry. I'm not going to do that. Been a while since I watched us play. I missed the Forest game. Was too early for me. Yeah, in that case, it's been close to 3 weeks for you. The Forest game was a weird one. I think United played well because people will look at the fact that we dominated possession. We, in theory, had control of a lot of the ball as well. The problem is, was that because United were doing things well? Or was that because Forest wanted us to play that way? You know, yes, United grabbed the ball and played out from the back. But was that United doing good things to get into those areas? Or was it Forest sitting back and being defensive and conservative, giving us the space? It's difficult. We've also got David in the chat with a gifted membership. David, thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much, guys. You know what to do. Some W's in the chat for David, some love hearts, and for Steve for his membership, and for Alex as well. Legends. Legends. Yeah, you didn't miss too much in the Forest game, I'll be honest. Stick at it, AJ. I'm going to keep trying, mate, because I think the concept will look really good if I can get it to work. There's going to be some questionable videos in the meantime, I think, whilst I'm trying to get it right. But yeah, I'm going to keep trying. And hopefully we get there. Anyway, should we move on to central midfielders? I think we should, because we've had a bit of a problem recently. Casemiro, Eriksen, Collier. How can I not find Bruno Fernandes? He literally carries this club on his back. Bruno Fernandes. And there's one more that I'm looking for. Ugarte. Those are probably the 5 options for the central midfield positions this weekend. And I think we've got a little bit of a problem. I mentioned it the other day in my Ugarte video. Is he progressive enough? Things like that. Steve mentioned it in the Discord server about how Ugarte doesn't seem to be completing 90-minute matches. Is there a problem forming in the United midfield where, look at those 5, are any of them players that you feel are going to be guaranteed starters in midfield? Because Casemiro, we think, will be gone in the summer, right? Eriksen probably the same. Collier is still young, still developing, so he's not there yet. Ugarte, there's question marks coming over him, and Bruno Fernandes, maybe he plays a different position. I'm not too sure. Having said that, this weekend, it probably suits us. Because you would assume that Manchester City are going to come along and try and dominate the ball. So it's going to be more about winning the ball, being scrappy, and winning free kicks, even things like that. So it might suit our midfield just a little bit more. My eyes are starting to water. Hay fever is... Who invented hay fever, man? Very nasty of them. I want to have words. I'm going to sneeze, actually. Let me just quickly go to the other screen and mute for 1 second, because no one wants to hear this. I will be back shortly. Okay, I'm back from sneezing. I hope you guys didn't hear that. Look how red my face has gone. Oh, hay fever, hay fever, hay fever. Anyway, midfield options. What do we reckon? It's probably Bruno Fernandes and Ugarte. Although, is this one of those games where you go Casemiro, Ugarte, right? Could you put those two in there, play Bruno Fernandes a little bit higher, and then use that sort of role where he's... Nope, that's the wrong player. Where he's starting higher and then dropping in to kind of give us that three-man midfield at times. And we could even defend in like a 3-5-2. Is that something that we have to look at? A members-only sneeze cam? Good God. No one wants to see that. I mean, unless you're willing to pay a lot of money. Then maybe. What do you guys reckon here? Ugarte covered the second most distance in Europe. Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about Ugarte, I was a little bit critical in my video the other day, which I think is fair to do because, you know, that conversation was about, is he as good as some people say? Probably not. Is he as bad as what some people say? No. Again, so often in football, it's somewhere in the middle. It's not as good as you think, it's not as bad as you think. He's a player who has weaknesses. I think the question is, are his strengths enough to warrant the weaknesses? I think that's what the conversation is for me personally. Having said that, this sort of game, we're going to want someone who can be feisty in midfield. You know, let's say it goes into Grealish in midfield, for example. We need someone who can get after him, who can tackle, who has the mobility, the aggression to keep doing it throughout the match. But also, when we win the ball back, what we do need is someone who can immediately protect it. Not necessarily someone who can spray it 90 yards straight away, but someone who can protect the ball for when City try and counter-press. And Ugarte is actually pretty good at that. He is pretty good in that area. And it tends to be these games where I think we see him at his best. We saw it against Arsenal in a cup game, I believe. We saw it against Manchester City back in December. Was there a Liverpool game as well where I think he played well early this year? This is probably the sort of game that suits him. So I think Ugarte probably will start, I think. And I would assume Bruno Fernandes next to him. Do you guys agree? Or not? Ugarte and Bruno, but again, didn't watch how they combined against Forest. Yeah, so against Forest, what we did is we started with Casemiro and Ugarte. That was the midfield two for the start of the match. And in that half, it felt that Bruno couldn't get enough of the ball because he was starting higher. Because he was playing so high, we struggled to get the ball to him in dangerous or even good positions. Second half, Ugarte came off at half time, didn't he? Bruno Fernandes went in deeper. And we got more of Bruno on the ball, but it wasn't really his best game, to be honest, so it's a little bit difficult to judge. Is there that argument that you could go for these two for defensive security? You know, Casemiro is big on set pieces. He does offer you certain game-breaking qualities at times as well on the ball. I think I would go Ugarte. I think this is the game that suits him. I think I would play him in midfield. My question is, do you put Casemiro next to him and play Fernandes higher? Or do you just put Bruno next to Ugarte? What would you guys do? Let me know in the chat. Basically, for this one game, we're not talking about his best position long term. For this one game, would you play Bruno deep in midfield? Or would you play him high in the 10? What do you reckon? Our build-up was broken by Dorgu and Xerxes, to be honest. Their passes were horrible. They weren't very good, were they, the other night? I think that's Dorgu's probably his worst game, I would say, in a United shirt so far. And Xerxes, he has this tendency, right? He has this tendency to do the first bit so well. He's sort of like, you know, he comes under pressure, he takes a good first touch, he dribbles past the first man nicely, keeps the ball, now just play it 4 yards to someone. It's in those moments he seems to slip up. He does the difficult part so well, and then you've got to play someone on the next one, and that's the part he fails. It's infuriating, because he's a technical player. This is what we want from him. You sign Xerxes, you play Xerxes for his link play. And it was just one of those games where it's like, do the easy part. Do the easy part well. That's all we want from you, mate. And he was struggling to do it. I kind of like the idea of Collier. I would love to see Collier in there. I would love to see Collier play this game. I think Collier and Ugarte would be an amazing partnership to really get through some ground, to cover the pitch well. Okay, what we'll do then, we'll do a poll and we'll go Ugate's midfield partner. Now remember, just because you don't vote for a player here, it doesn't mean they won't start, because they could play a different position. So, like Bruno, you may not vote for him to play this role, but he could play as a 10 or something else. So, Fernandes, Casemiro, Collier. They are the three options. You think it's a concentration thing with Xerxes? I think so too. I think it's almost that, like, I've done the difficult part, now I can relax. You know, so you're receiving the ball, you're under pressure, you're holding off a defender, the ball's coming in. You've got to do two jobs at once there. Hold off a defender, protect the ball well. That's tough. Takes concentration, you have to do it well. Xerxes does that, and then he almost seems to go, okay, I've done the hard part, now let's just pass. And like I said, he almost like takes the foot off the gas a little bit. He is it almost complacent a little bit? Almost a little bit complacent, where like he's done the hard part, now it's easy, mess up the easy. It feels like that a little bit, and like you said, I think it does come into concentration. Like I said, almost relaxing once he's done the difficult part. There's probably an intensity thing as well, right? Probably an intensity thing as well. Like the stream, folks, help AJ with his hay fever. Please, if liking this stream will solve this hay fever thing, please leave a like, because it's not going well. It's not looking good, bruv. Bruno is more effective as an 8. Just defensively going up against a better opposition, how defensively disciplined Bruno can be. Yeah, so I've recorded a video. It might need to be re-recorded because I'm not fully happy with it. But looking at Bruno Fernandes in the 10 compared to the 8. And kind of a point I make in that video is, I think in games that you dominate the ball, Bruno in the 8 is amazing, right? Because you've got a lot of the ball, the opposition is sitting deep, so you've got a Bruno with time and more touches. Like, lovely. That's what you want from Bruno. But he does lack something defensively. He obviously has the work rate, he has the tenacity and things like that, but he just doesn't have the physicality in duels, and perhaps at times the understanding and the reading of the game defensively, and can leave you a little bit weak, a little bit vulnerable in the middle of the pitch. Again, it's not for a lack of trying. He's always going to give you a shift. But maybe in the big games, you put him a little bit higher. You get someone a bit more defensively secure, just that little bit deeper, just to protect yourself. And then Bruno can still be that threat in transition, because he can pick the ball up. And if you get, say, like a Højlund and a Garnacho up there with him, so you've got running options when Bruno picks the ball up, I think it can work still. However, having said all that, in a game where it might be quite tough for United to get hold of the ball at times, do you restrict Bruno's touches too much if you play him high? You know, if he's playing up in these positions, is he ever going to get the ball? That's where it's tough. It's where there is that 50-50. Fernandes needs to work on the partnership for against Leon and the long term. Yeah, fair. Xerxes is like when Charizard only wanted to fight strong Pokemon or fire types. Maybe Amarim needs more badges. That might be what it is. What a great analogy. It's totally complacent. I think so too. Collier could have been ideal, but he doesn't seem to be rated by Ruben Amorim. Yeah, I don't know if it's a case of not rating him, or I think Collier perhaps isn't a specialist in a certain area. You know, Bruno evidently is. Eriksen clearly has his strengths. Collier, apart from sort of like work rate, intensity, things like that, it's difficult to tell you right now what he's truly great at, if you know what I mean. He's not someone who passes unbelievably well, for example. He's not a immensely strong ball carrier, although I think he could become that. Maybe that's why. Maybe Amorim at times is looking for more of a specialist job. I'm not sure. I think an Ugarte Collier midfield could be quite nice, though. It's not going to bring you bags of technical quality. And, you know, if we were playing against a low block, I wouldn't want to see this. But in this sort of game, maybe we can. What's the poll saying? Oh, the poll is saying Bruno. And I'm not surprised, to be honest. Completely understandable. These two have played well in big games before. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So, there we go. Midfield balance, you could do a whole video series on it. It's actually not a bad idea to do a series. I'd quite like to do that at some point. I feel like we don't have a series on the channel. We have sort of like the ongoing match series, almost, if you like. But apart from that, maybe we need a series. You know, I said looking at midfield balance. There's endless videos on that. We're going to need to allow Bruno to get on the ball deep, even out in fullback positions. Yeah, I guess he can do that when he plays higher as well, because he can sort of like drop outside of the structure to pick the ball up. But yeah, naturally it comes easier when he's starting deeper. I think, like you've said there, he can drop out into fullback positions, but also into the back three, because we've seen that, haven't we? Where Bruno drops a little bit deeper to pick it up, and Euro goes forward. In those moments, we're just worried about leaving the midfield too open. But yeah, I'm okay with that midfield too. I think so far we've got a pretty strong team going on here. Next, we need some wing backs. Now, when we talk about wing backs, we've got a lot of options. For example, we've got Dalot who could play on the right. We've got where is he? I can't find him. There he is. We've got Dorgu who could play on the left. That's kind of it. That's sort of all we've got. You know, could you play an Amas? Maybe, but I don't see him being thrown in for a start here. If he didn't play the Forest game, I don't think he would get chucked into this game. I think that's slightly unlikely. Do we have anyone else? Garnacho doesn't seem to be favoured in any sort of wing-back position. Of course, Ahmad is out injured. Mazraoui is dropped to the back three. Is this all we've got? Is this the easiest conversation ever? Because we've got two positions and two players. So bish bash bosh. Done like that. I agree Collier is too limited on the ball and we have better options. Of course, we've got to remember with Collier, he's still a very young player, right? Potentially a slightly late bloomer compared to certain other youngsters. I think Collier is going to be, in time, such a good squad option for us, though. I'm looking forward to that. AJ, did you feel Dorgu was tired last Forest match? How can he be tired in the first game after the break? I don't know that he looked tired. I don't actually know how much football he played over the international break. I believe he was in a Denmark squad, wasn't he? But I can't remember. I don't know how much football he played. Do I think he looked tired? I wouldn't say tired as such. I think it was almost just one of those nights where it wasn't happening for him. You know, there were certain moments where he wasn't given the ball when he should. A couple where kind of Garnacho picks the ball up here, Dorgu goes round, and you got to slip the pass, and we're not doing it, which can be frustrating. The wing-back role is tough anyway. Physically, it's very demanding. A lot of work up and down. So I wouldn't say he looked tired as such. I think it was just one of those days almost. Because Forest were deep, he wasn't arriving into space so much, he was sort of starting there. And I think that's when he's slightly less effective anyway. I think he's better when he's got a lot of space to attack. So you sort of break quickly, you find him as the free man on the far side. That's where I like Dorgu. Because Forest were a little bit deeper, there was a slightly more emphasis on technical work rather than physical work. And yeah, he struggled there really. Dorgu looked a bit like he didn't know what to do because they were playing 12 at the back. Genuinely, right? Because, you know, he's not a crossing expert. He gets into good crossing positions, but he's not an amazing crosser right now. So against that low block, when the dynamic, the understanding wasn't working with those around him, you know, Garnacho and even Bruno in the first half, they didn't connect as well as they have in the past. And then, like you said, that puts it a bit more down to him individually. And he's not that player who thrives against a low block. So I think it was just a case of a poor night from him, not quite getting it going with his teammates, not quite getting the understanding, but also playing against a deep defence, which just doesn't really suit him too much at the moment. It'll probably be a 5-4-1 block. Dorgu plays wing-back and Garnacho starts probably, and Bruno will try to find them with pinged ball behind the defence. Yeah, I would imagine so. Now, the next thing we need to do, listen to my voice, is inside forwards, but I'm going to sneeze again. So quickly put in the chat the two inside forwards that you would go for while I go have my little sneezing malfunction, and then we'll be right back. Okay, I'm back again. Look at the state of me. Oh, hay fever's got us on the ropes. How much hay fever drugs can you take? Only so much. Can we also take a moment to appreciate AJ putting a bus on the board in his last video? I enjoyed that. I enjoyed picking the bus up, putting it bang in the middle of the Nottingham Forest box and going. That's what they did. They parked the bus. That was quite fun to do. Dorgu is a transitional type player in my opinion. Yeah, I think certainly at the moment anyway. Perhaps we'll develop him and refine his game a little bit to make him a little bit more against low blocks eventually. But right now he's not that, and you know that's where we are right now. AJ, in those games against Forest, why don't we pass back to the goalkeeper a bit more and have the ball in our box? So what you're talking about is having the ball in these areas, passing back to try and bring the opposition onto us a little bit more. I understand the call for that. I think there were times where we did that. There were times where we did that against Forest. I just felt that then when we got here, you know, we kind of drew Forest in a little bit. We sort of played through. Here, we lacked the speed, really, to hurt Forest. Something I keep talking about a lot is we don't have a ball-carrying 10. We don't have one. Ahmad sort of does it, but obviously injured at the moment, and he's not a powerful carrier. Xerxes is close to it, but lacks intensity in the way that he plays. But, you know, Bruno playing inside forward the other day, when he picks the ball up here in a bit of space, you want someone who can really drive and hurt the opposition, and currently we don't have that. So even when we do bring teams onto us in these deeper positions, we get it here. We lack the threat. It's just a problem with the profiles we've got at the moment. We actually lack just plain simple, scary attacking players. Players that the opposition are sitting there going, shit, I'm 1v1 with this guy, I do not want to be. We lack that player at the moment. You know, the other day it was Bruno, it was Xerxes, it was Garnacho. Let's say Bruno picks the ball up here. Are the opposition really scared? Are they really scared here? Because Xerxes not going to make the run in behind, and Garnacho at the moment seems to lack the acceleration to get away from people or the physicality to protect himself and the ball. So we don't have much threat. We don't have much threat there. So there were probably 3 or 4 times in the game, I would say, we got into this situation where we actually played through the press. We sort of invited Forest on, but we then didn't really go through them. And of course, as we know, the rest of the game, they were deep. Very, very deep. Insert bus here. They were very deep. So that, you know, the other day it wasn't the biggest issue in the game. We had other issues, but I think it is still something that arrives in moments. How many matches did Amorim say Mount can only play 10 to 20 minutes? I don't actually know. I would love to see Mount play this game, but I think I'd just play it safe. I think I would just play it safe and not start him because I'm so scared of rushing him back because I think he's going to be such a good player for us if he can ever stay fit. So the priority has to be turning Mount into this sort of like indestructible, bulletproof fitness machine. That's what we need Mount to be. That's what we need. Is it the time to do it just yet? Not sure. Not sure it is. Having said that, we do also need to consider trying to protect players ahead of the Lyon game. That is something that has to come into our minds. Alex said it earlier. Perhaps with Dorgu at wing-back, you play him for 60, but then do you give him the last half hour off, bring an Almas into the game, or a Mantato? Possibly. City was the game he got injured as well? Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't mind seeing Mount start on Thursday, though, for 50, 60 minutes. I think for me, I would give him 20, 30 maybe. Yeah, 20 minutes this weekend. I'd then go maybe up to 30 on Thursday. Maybe past that, he can then come into the starting 11. But personally, I wouldn't do it just yet. Not just yet. Wouldn't mind seeing Mount. Oh, I already read that, sorry. Mount is a write-off. Keep him fit and then try to offload him in the summer. Possibly. Forest never commit to pressing. Yeah, exactly. It's difficult to force them to do it because they only done it 3 or 4 times across 90 minutes. The rest of the game, they sat very deep and asked us to play through them, which we struggled to do as well. That's the ironic thing in terms of how this squad has been built. A team presses us. We don't have the carrying and the pace to hurt them, so we can't play well against that or overly well. And if a team sits deep, we don't have the midfielders or the wing-backs or whatever to break them down. That's the problem we've got at the moment. There isn't like a game state where I feel this squad really thrives, apart from still probably transitions. We're still there. Get Dorgu and Bruno off once we go 3 goals up. Good idea. Good idea. If Mount is not starting and Bruno plays as a central midfielder, then there is not much choice. Garnacho and Xerxes. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair way of putting it, to be honest. Again, not an awful lot of choice. It's weird. It doesn't feel like we have that many injuries at the moment, but we still feel quite limited with what we can do. Who have we got out? We've got, in terms of, let's ignore Shaw. Sorry, mate. But Lisandro Martinez, Kobbie Mainoo, Amad. Is it those 3 right now that are out? Like the big ones that are out. Am I missing anyone? Because just those 3 players out seems to really restrict us. Really restrict us. Which probably, again, points to the squad building. Because obviously, now if Xerxes is playing here, then we're only left with 1 striker. Unless Chidobe comes in, but I don't think he will, not in this game. Højlund. And just like that, we've built our starting 11, right? We've built our starting 11. Now, I guess the question here is, how confident are you? How confident are you? If I was United, the way I would approach this game is I would sit a little bit deeper, which I think we probably will. Jonny Evans slander. I apologise, Johnny. I apologise. He's in his own category, a league of his own. Yeah, I guess the question now is how confident are you that United can win this game? I would assume that we probably sit deep in the block. We probably sit deep in the block and look to transition because City are poor there. Gonzalez is a really nice midfielder. Gundogan, obviously a good player, but they're not defensive midfielders. They're not ball winners. So the mission really, I would imagine, will be to break quick. I think the reason we feel so limited is the squad depth due to legs and skills of versatility. Lack of versatility. Lack of players that can play 3 positions to a really high level. Evans was never a player in the squad. He was like a coach. I still don't... Was Jonny Evans, when we signed him, was he meant to come in and be a footballer or a coach? Like, was he actually meant to be a player or was it purely a coaching thing? I don't know. That attack just saddens me, bro. It's really not their fault. They're all young players. We need experience up top. Yeah, I mean... Obviously, we're talking about playing in transition. That front 3. Manchester City going to look at them and go, oh, scared of them. I'm not sure they are. I hope Rico Lewis plays. He's pants. I mean, transition-wise, he's someone that we could get at. He is a good lad. Jonny Evans is a good lad. He's a good professional, isn't he? Great professional. Yeah, I think realistically, though, if we go back to this, we're talking about United trying to defend deep. The only thing I would say here is, if you play Xerxes and Garnacho, David spoke about it earlier, going to the flat 5-4-1, out of possession. I don't know that Xerxes wants to do that on the side so much. We have seen games, though, where Garnacho sort of tucks around a little bit more. So I wonder if we might defend sort of slightly asymmetrical, slightly off balance. A little bit like this, where Garnacho's that little bit deeper. That little bit deeper, and Xerxes perhaps a little bit higher. I could see something like that. I do think there's potential, though, for some nice combination play here. I think that's nice. It was a short-term deal after he played with the academy players in pre-season. Then Ten Hag gave him a 1-year deal. Good old Jonny Evans. What a boy. What a boy. You know what? I think Højlund can scare them. I think the second he came on the other day, he offered us something a little bit different, didn't he? Just straight away, the first minute, he went into the channel, he went behind this way, and then a little bit later on, he went behind the other side. He does bring something different to the team. I'll definitely miss Kyle Walker's dive tomorrow. Just won't be the same without it, will it? It will not be the same. Oh, by the way, guys, this game, I'm going to be analysing it for this channel as always, but I'm also going to be analysing it in a slightly different way for another channel as well. Football Terrace Clips is the current name of the channel. I'm not sure if it's changing, but if you want to see more of me, particularly in this format, go over to that channel because you'll see more of me there. Why not Garnacho at left 10? Bruno just to the right from central midfield. Xerxes sit in the middle. Garnacho left 10. Yeah, actually, yeah, that's probably the question, the conversation we still need to have. What way round Xerxes and Garnacho play? Yeah, that is an important point to raise. There's a few, and I guess Ugarte and Bruno as well. Garnacho on the left never passes. Yeah, I do just get a feeling that these two aren't clicking at the moment, but they're never going to click if we football terrace clips. I don't say terrace very well. Football terrace. 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 AJ, do you think we can exploit their fullbacks? Honestly, I don't want to sit on the fence here, but I think it's so dependent on the way our forwards turn up. You know, I think Dorgu and Dalot could cause a lot of problems on the overload. The quick breaks arriving into that space, I think they could cause a lot of problems, let alone maybe Garnacho running at one of them. It'd be interesting down this side to see how that goes. Not sure. Garnacho against O'Reilly, bit of inexperience there. Can you get at him? Maybe, although physically he's quite a good player. What do we reckon? What way round would you play them? I think most people will say Garnacho on the right. I think after the last game, Amorim is never putting Garnacho on the left again. I think we'll see him there again at some point, but yes, Terrace. Yes, that is how you spell it. Terrace. 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 I think that's alright, I'm saying it now. Dorgu and Garnacho just don't work, sadly. Garnacho doesn't really pass him for some reason. Again, the problem is there, though. If you go, they don't link up well, so you never play them together. They're never going to get an understanding. Obviously, in training, perhaps. But the best way to get an understanding with each other is to play with each other. So we can't completely write off Garnacho on the left just because he doesn't link up with Dorgu well, because if not, they'll never link up well. So we do have to put some time into working on it. What way would I go? It's tough. I would consider Garnacho left, Dalot right. Purely because I think Dalot is a better dribbler than Dorgu. In terms of taking players on 1v1. And then Garnacho does it on the left. Guys, I need another sneeze break. I'll be right back. I do apologise. Give me 1 second. I'm back. Edwick, good morning, mate. Loving your new analysis setup. It's very 442-esque. Thank you so much for the kind words, mate. I'm working on it. You can tell it's not perfect, right, with lighting and things like that. But I'm working on it. I'm trying to get there. Like I said, it's had me rather defeated this week. But we're getting there, so thank you very much for the support. That actually means a lot. It lifts my mood. Yeah, guys, hay fever is ruining me. AJ and his sneeze break. I've had my hay fever tablets today. I've had them. We need a... You know, when I cut to this, we need like a sneeze break thing made up, don't we? Hay Fever 1, AJ 0. You've been generous there. I think this is a battering. This is 4-0 to Hay Fever right now. It's been like it all morning. Like I said, it's always worse on days that I need to stream. Like just during the week, I'm normally fine, and then it's like Friday stream time. Here, have some Hay Fever. Every time, every time. Only sneeze? Yeah, I'm down for that. I'm down for that. Sneezing analysis, how AJ beat hay fever. How I beat hay fever will never be a video that is released. Maybe how hay fever beat me, though. Maybe. Back to the football. Garnacho and Dorgu get into good positions. That is the one thing I will always say. We can talk all day about final product, final decision, technical quality, whatever. There's been a lot of conversations about Garnacho recently. I will always value players that you notice. You know, we'll talk about Garnacho getting into so many good positions, but never making that right decision. And it's annoying that he doesn't make the right decision. But for me, it's great that he's getting into the positions. Getting into the positions in the first place is so much of the work. And I think the decision-making refinement is something that we can do. So yes, him and Dorgu aren't linking up that well right now. But how many times have we said they're in a great position if we play the pass? So that to me suggests if we can just refine the decision-making so we make the pass, look how regularly we're getting into good positions. If you see what I'm saying there. So it's really frustrating, particularly in the short term. But players that get into good positions, players that make things happen, even if it's bad in the end, that they have value because eventually they are going to do it. They're going to do it, right? Because Dorgu's clearly a talented player. So is Garnacho. Do they have flaws? Yes, of course. But they're young. They'll get better. They're always there. They're always there. That is a skill. That is a skill. Being in the right place at the right time, understanding the movement to get there. That in itself is a skill. The fact that every week we talk about if Garnacho had just made this decision here, that means that every week Garnacho is getting into great areas. So I think we have to remember that when we're trying to judge these players, when we're trying to judge that. I really don't know what way around I would go with the two of them for this game. Would I go Bruno opposite to Xerxes just so Xerxes can drop in more? Perhaps. Maybe something like that. Or more like that, perhaps. Maybe like that? I don't know. I agree totally. I think people are very hard on Garnacho, but he is the one putting us in dangerous positions. It's really difficult, isn't it? Because we also have a standard at the club that has fallen recently, but that we need to hit, right? We do need players that produce in the big moments as well. So it is tough. It is that balance. Yes, it's great that he's getting into those positions, like I've just been banging on about for 5 minutes. But also, at some point, he needs to come up with the goods as well. So I get why people are critical. I think everyone has the right to be critical. But let's do it in a certain way. And let's also try and look at what he's doing at the moment as well. I like Mazraoui and Dalot on the same side as Garnacho. Physically, that does a lot for us, for sure. Physically, that could do a lot for us. AJ, could we see more rotations in that midfield? I like the idea of one of the inside forwards, not just this weekend, not just this season, but long term. I like the idea of having one of these 10s that can sort of drop into midfield and link with us a bit more. And then the other one being a bit more direct, so we can move. So we can do things a little bit differently. And like you said, rotate a little bit more. Make us slightly less predictable. So yeah, I think Xerxes is someone that can do that for us. And particularly because Bruno's happy to go the other way. We also know it recently. Ugate's played a bit higher on the right-hand side at times, and Bruno's played deeper. So I think there is the option for rotation, and I would love to see that. Again, I don't know if this match specifically demands it, because City, you would expect, will dominate the ball. So it's a bit more transitional, but certainly long-term moving forward, that's the sort of picture that I have in my head of the direction that we go in. That's what I see. Ahmad was amazing at being at the right place. Yeah, a lot of it through just pure hard work as much as anything. Anyway, we need to finish off with some score predictions. Now, if you are a member, if you go into the chat, you can use custom emojis to predict your goal scorers. But if not, just put the names. I would love to see what you think. This is the midfield balance question, so hard to answer. I honestly think it's the most difficult question around United right now. The midfield balance, not now, in August. Because is Ugarte a starter or not in August? I don't know. Is Kobbie Mainoo a starter in August or not? I don't know. And maybe he is, but as a 10. Bruno Fernandes will start somewhere. But if he's a 10, it requires different squad building to if he's a central midfielder. It's really tough. It's really, really tough. Why quibble about Ugarte's technical skills? He does his job. Again, what I will say about Ugarte, I like him. I liked him a lot, particularly when he was at Sporting. What I would say about Ugarte is, if he's not going to bring so much on the ball, that does mean his job has to be a very defensively secure one. He's not good. He's good at defending. He's good at defending. Let's clarify that. But he's not amazing at defending. Covers ground, works hard, bites, snaps, is a mad dog. Yes. Nibbles that heals, clips people, takes people out. Yes. But actually, purely, is he good 1 versus 1 defensively? Not particularly. We've seen the numbers that reflect that. We've seen that he goes into a lot of duels, doesn't actually win that many of them. Now, of course, it's great that he's trying to tackle a lot, but unless the success rate actually improves, is it actually just a problem? Because if you've got a player who is running about everywhere going into tackles, but losing, I think it's 60% of them, right? It's around 60% of them. That means he's regularly leaving gaps. Now, like I said the other day, I think we can address that by connecting the centre-backs a little bit better and things like that. But he has to improve. Of course he does. He has to improve. He needs to get better on the ball, but we're not asking for him to be Paul Pogba on the ball. He needs to get a little bit better. But he also needs to improve defensively. He's a young player playing in a new country, new environment, new system, an inconsistent system. We expect it to take time. But he does need to improve. I don't think there is an issue with saying that. All of these players need to improve, right? Especially anyone under the age of 26 here should be looking to improve. We've got David in the chat with the donation. David, thank you very much. He's gone for Bruno. Is that a Bruno Fernandes hat-trick? Ooh. Nunes disaster class incoming once again. Can you imagine if we smacked 3 past City? That would be beautiful. It would be beautiful. David, thank you very much, as always, for the donation. Very kind of you. And you guys have really beat me to it with the love hearts. That's my community right there. I love Ugarte, but there's almost no difference between him and Ryan Yates. I think that's a little harsh on Ugarte. I think ceiling-wise, he's certainly got more potential. But I get the point you're making. He needs to improve, but like I said, so many of them do. You know, Garnacho needs to improve. Kobbie Mainoo needs to improve. Dorgu needs to improve. Yoro, Amad, they all need to improve. Of course they do. My nose is running again, and I'm really sad. Give me 1 second. I'm dying. I'm dying. See you later, Alex, mate. Thanks for joining the stream. Been great to talk to you. And I'll see you sometime soon. I'll chat to you sometime soon. Have a good one. Have a good one. City are looking much better, to be honest. Yeah, I think they're improving. Ugarte will improve when he has faster legs playing with him. Yeah, 100%. And, you know, when the whole team is more used to the system. All of these things, of course. Anyway, I think we are now finished. I think that is everything that we needed to discuss. We've got ourselves a starting 11, which hopefully can win the game. So yeah, I think that's everything. I have slight sympathy for Ugarte. He's playing in a midfielder that leaves gaps and has no legs. Doing a 2-man job at times. Yeah, I agree. 100%. Yeah, like I said, Ugarte, like everyone, needs work. Yeah, no caps, exactly, mate. That's why I didn't read it. I may not have read it anyway, though, because it's slightly odd. Anyway, yeah, thank you guys very much for watching this stream. I hope you have enjoyed it. Like I said, in terms of videos coming to the channel, bear with me. I'm working on it. We are going to try and get there with the setup, but it's taking work. More work than I expected, more money than I expected. But we're trying, so we'll get there eventually. In the meantime, there might be some videos that have slight imperfections in terms of lighting and things like that. But hopefully you're just here for my charm and charisma, right? Right? Anyone? No? Okay. Yeah, but thank you guys very much for watching. I will see you at some point over the weekend with a video. Of course, I will be covering this match as well. Probably Monday morning I will get to that. But yeah, there's stuff coming to the channel, so I will see you at some point in the next few days. I can't say exactly when. I am now going to dip and go and try and battle this hay fever and might 1v1 it on Club Penguin or something. And hopefully I get through it. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed the stream. Yeah, have a great day. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. And hopefully we beat City. 2-0. I never gave my prediction. 2-0. Bruno and Højlund. 2-0 Manchester United. And yes,